High School Football.
Powered by Founders Federal Credit Union, official credit union of the Saturday Morning Scramble, and your local Ingalls Market.
It's the Saturday Morning Scramble on the Fan Upstate.
Well. Round one of the high school football playoffs are in the books. Just like that. What a night it was. Alex Guest is already tearing up about it over there. And I am excited to be with you this morning, as I know Alex is as well. Some really good games last night, some blowouts as we predicted, and then some games that we didn't predict to be as close as they were, Alex, and one that you were just showing me a few minutes ago. But welcome in to the Saturday Morning Scramble. I tell you what, it's a great Saturday. It's going to be a beautiful day today, and it's a great Saturday to be at your local Ingalls Markets, where we are this morning, 4600 South Carolina Highway 9 in Inman. It's the store, which we call, Alex, as locals, the new Ingalls. This Ingalls is not new, but guess what? Compared to the other Ingalls on Highway 9, it's the newer one. So those in Boiling Springs call this one the new Ingalls.
Compared to any Ingalls I've ever walked into, this is a new Ingalls.
Okay, now this one is renovated recently.
This one,
Isn't it nice?
the shiny floors and this is nice.
They polish your shoes on the way in. I mean,
and they make sure that they're tied on the way out, so that way you don't trip in the parking lot.
It's a beautiful store, man. And like I said, newly renovated here down in Boiling Springs. It's the Inman address, I guess, if you want to call it Inman. It's not Inman to me, but you know how these addresses go. But nonetheless, welcome into the Saturday Scramble. So good to be with you this morning. If you were at a high school football game last night, we'd love to hear from you. 844-326-3663. We have a loaded show coming your way this morning. I've got some audio from the game that I was at last night. We're also going to be joined by Scoot Watson. How about those Red Raiders? A big win for him and Greenville last night. Alex will also be joined by Mark Hodge, the head football coach of the Spartanburg Vikings, who got a big piece back of their puzzle. So a lot to get to. Brackets updated. Alex Guest has the scores from last night. How did we do last night? That sounds like a good little intro. How do you do? How did we do, Alex, in our weekly picks? Looking at the spreadsheet, you and I both did pretty good last night. Pretty dang good last night. And I think you're getting better at this thing.
I've consistently had 3 or 4 wrong. So,
But you know what?
I got 3 wrong last night again, so I wouldn't say I'm getting any
better.
better.
Good, though.
No,
it's pretty good. 20-3 is what you went last night.
20-3.
So out of 23 games that you picked, you got 20 of them correct. You're just salty because you didn't beat the King, and it's hard to beat the King. But I went 21-2 last night.
Yeah, you did.
But I will say, to be fair with you, I thought about 3 weeks ago, Alex, that you were going to catch me. I thought you were.
Well, I still might. There's still 4 weeks left.
But here's the problem. The number of games are going to reduce.
I know.
And here's the other problem. You and I are probably going to side on a lot of them.
I don't know.
You don't think?
I don't know.
So here we are on the season total. I'm 246-55. You're 240-61. To catch me, you're 6 games back right now?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's not great.
It's doable. But we'll see. You're at 79.73% in win picks. That's pretty good. I'm at 81.73. So if you do catch me, you're going to have to rely maybe this week because, the games are really after this week going to drop a lot.
Yeah.
You might have to do it this week.
Well, maybe. Maybe because the later you get in the season, the better both teams become. So
that's true. It is harder to pick. It's harder to pick later in the year because of playoffs. You're right. Yeah. And to your point, both teams are really good. So we'll get to round 2. We'll get to so much more. A loaded show coming your way this morning. Cannot wait to be with you all morning long until 10 a.m. as we're live at Ingalls and Boiling Springs. It's the Inman address. It's the newer Ingalls if you're going toward the 2 schools on Highway 9 closest to Lake Bowen. Alex and I are here this morning. We'd love to see you talk a little high school football with you. But let's just get right to it, Alex Guest. The scores from last night. What happened? In our coverage area, the listeners are dying to know what the scores were. And while you're doing that, I'm going to get them up on the fanupstate.com.
please do get them on the fanupstate.com. Well, in 5A Division 1 last night, Boiling Springs and Malden, they rematched from a Week 1 game earlier in the season in which Malden won. Well, Boiling Springs got revenge last night. 16-14 was the final in that one. Boiling Springs a winner over Malden. They move on to the second round. They get a matchup with Dutch Fork next week. Rock Hill blanks Spring Valley last night, 47-0. So Burns will host Rock Hill. It is Blythewood getting a 42-23 win over Clover. Spartanburg 45-3 winners over J.L. Mann. In 5A Division 2, it's Catawba Ridge, a 13-3 winner over Fort Mill. Gaffney defeats Eastside 28-10. Greenville knocks off Nation Ford 42-35, and Hillcrest a 35-14 winner over Riverside in a game that Cole was at last night. In 4A, South Point knocks off Beaufort 63-13. Emerald defeats Fountain Inn. That is a rematch of a game from a couple of weeks ago. Emerald got the revenge on Fountain Inn last night, 44-36 final in that game. Seneca defeats Lancaster 28-21. AC Flora knocks off York 42-14. Daniel and Dreer, they go down to the wire.
No. That was supposed to be a blowout.
No, that was supposed to be a blowout, and Dreer held a 10-7 lead on Daniel going into the fourth quarter. Daniel gets the game-winning touchdown in the fourth, though. 14-10 final in that ball game. It is Camden coming away with a 38-20 win over Greer. Westside defeats Pickens 49-21, and Wren knocks off Blue Ridge 42-28. That sets up a rematch between Westside and Wren next week. Powdersville, a 66-0 winner over Carolina. Pendleton defeats Broome 24-21. That's one of the games that I got wrong. Crescent knocks off Union County 52-14. Mountain View Prep and St. Joe's, they go down to the wire, it looks like. 28-27. MVP, a winner over St. Joe's last night. It's Woodruff 49-7 winners over West Oak. Christchurch 47-7 over Walhalla. Belton Honeypath 56-7 over Palmetto. Southside Christian 55-15 winners over Chapman. In 2A, it's Clinton 56-7 winners over North Central. Saluda defeats Mid Carolina 33-13. Andrew Jackson over 96, 34-16. Fairfield Central defeats Chesney 50-21. Chester knocks off Blacksburg 50-6. Faithburg-Leesville 42-0 winners over Eau Claire. It's Strom-Thurmond a 49-0 winner over Chesterfield. Liberty 35-14 winners over Pillion last night.
Who?
Pillion. And in the 1A upper state bracket, Abbeville, Louisville, Blackville Hilda, C.A. Johnson, Ware Shoals, Lamar, they all get shutout victories. Abbeville 63-0 over Great Falls. It's Louisville 62-0 over Whitmire. Blackville Hilda 15-0 over McCormick. C.A. Johnson 12-0 over Calhoun County. Ware Shoals 38-0 over Ridge Spring Minetta. It's Lamar 49-0 over Calhoun Falls. Hunter Kiner Tyler gets a 56-14 win over Lee Central. And it is Dixie. They fall at home last night, 14-9 to Wagner Sally. And then Greenwood Christian in Skeeza, they keep on winning. They got a 31-7 win last night over Dillon Christian. So they will take on Bethesda Academy next week in the semifinals of the Skeeza playoffs.
How about that?
Those are your playoff round one scores.
That's a lot of scores.
That's a lot of scores.
A lot of scores. Yeah. Fantastic job. And guess what? Those scores that you just read, Alex, are now live at thefanupstate.com.
Nice.
So if anybody out there listening just tuned in and didn't catch every single score, good news is you can go to thefanupstate.com and find every score that Alex just read off on our website. It's on the front page at thefanupstate.com. Make sure you download the Odyssey app while you're there. You can also catch us on the iHeartRadio app. I would encourage you to set the Fan Upstate as your number one preset on the iHeartRadio app as well. That way you can find us quickly without any kind of troubles through Odyssey or iHeartRadio. So many ways to listen. You can also watch this morning's show on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. It's 3 ways you can watch the show. And look at who it is, Jersey Joe, Alex. On the stream, he says, "Let's get scrambled." He also, I love that. It sounds weird.
Scrambling eggs.
It sounds weird, but I like it at the same time. Jersey Joe says, my wife's school, Christchurch, moving on to round 2. You're right, Jersey Joe, a big win for Christchurch. Alex, where did we go wrong last night in our weekly predictions? Where did we have the egg on our face, per se?
Wow.
You like that for
Yeah,
the scrambled,
no, not really.
for the scrambled eggs? You picked, again, 3 games incorrectly. I missed 2 games last night, and 2 of the 3 we both picked wrong. We only differed on 1 game. That might be something we've never done before.
Yeah.
Only differed on 1 game last night, and we talked about it being a close game. And that game we're talking about that we both differed on, was Pendleton Broome.
Yep.
In a close game it was. You just read off the score one more time.
24-21, Pendleton, a 3-point winner over Broome.
And it was back and forth.
Yeah.
Because I was following along, and Broome led, Pendleton led, Broome led, and Pendleton 24-21, man.
Yeah.
That's a big win for the Bulldogs. So you picked Broome in that one. I picked Pendleton. The Broome Centurion season has come to an end now. Alex, 2 games that we both picked incorrectly last night. Let's start with this one. You mentioned Emerald Fountain Inn, a rematch, and, man, we talked about it on Thursday on our Saturday Scramble Playoff Extravaganza podcast that we did. We talked about this maybe being one of the better games.
Yeah.
Emerald Fountain Inn, and I think it lived up to that standard again, didn't it?
Yeah, I think so, especially when you look at the final score, 44-36, Emerald, a winner over Fountain Inn at Fountain Inn. And, hey, you know, it's like I said on Thursday, I was able to stop by the Fountain Inn practice on Wednesday afternoon, and, you know, they looked ready, and it really seemed like they were prepping for a state championship and not just a first-round playoff game. And unfortunately, you know, Emerald got the better of them last night, but you know, kudos, shout out to Fountain Inn and Brett Nichols and what he's able to do for that school.
Sure.
You know, a school still in their infancy, just their 4th year overall and only their 2nd year with a full class of football players on the field, freshman to senior. And so to be able to host your first ever home playoff game last night, what that does for that Fountain Inn community and what Brett Nichols has been able to do and his football coaching staff, that's just awesome for them. And, you know, unfortunately their season comes to an end a little bit earlier than they had hoped, but, you know, Emerald played a really good game. Tad DeBose and his crew picked up a really big win over
He's
Fountain
a
Inn
good
last
coach,
night.
man. We talked about it on Thursday. That guy's been doing it for a long time, and I mean, coached under one of the best ones in the state, and Jamie Nichols. So, you know, with his experience, I knew it was going to be good. I didn't know, you know, who to pick. I went back and forth. We both picked Fountain Inn, so we got that one wrong. And then the last game that we got wrong last night, Alex, you and I both picked Malden.
Yep.
This one was interesting because it was a rematch. Malden won the first time.
Yeah.
And there's the old saying of, well, you know, it's hard to beat a team twice. And I guess you and I should have listened to that saying last night because Bowling Springs gets the win. Now, there was a very ugly ending to that football game, a fight afterwards, and I saw a video that was just unfortunate. There's just no place for that in high school football. You hate seeing things like that. It was nasty. I don't know what kind of repercussions there will be, but you know, it was not good. Nonetheless, congratulations to Bowling Springs. They had the ball at the 20-yard line, driving in with a chance to win the game. It was 14-9. They get down. There was a pass interference call that got them first and goal from the 5. They couldn't get it on first, couldn't get it on second. They called a timeout. Third down, they come in with a little trick play, and the quarterback actually slides over, and they take it the right snap to the running back, and the running back cuts off the right side off tackle and scores. And it's a big win. It might not have been the running back. It was a weird direct snap. I was following along on Twitter, so I'm not exactly sure who it was that took the snap, but it was a little trickery there at the end. So congratulations to Matt Reel and those guys for a big win this morning or last night over Malden. A game I know they wanted to get, and we talk about repercussions from the scuffle after the fact, Alex. Maybe the repercussions are the winner has to go to Dutch Fork.
Yeah, the winner has to go to Dutch Fork, unfortunately, for Boiling Springs. And, you know, really anybody that decides they want to schedule at Dutch Fork or end up having to play Dutch Fork. But and again, we talk about a school that is hosting home playoff games in Fountain Inn. You talk about Malden; they hosted their first home playoff game for the first time this century. The last time they hosted a playoff game was back in 1999. So shout out to Andre Cook and his team that they've got going on down there. But again, Matt Rill and company, huge win last night. Now we mention it. They get to go on the road to Dutch Fork, and Boiling Springs is no stranger to playing Dutch Fork. They've done it
a lot lately, right?
Yeah, feels like they've done it every year in the playoffs lately.
Sure.
So who knows? Maybe this will be the year that they get the better of Tom Knotz's Silver Foxes.
On the stream, Philip says, "Let's go Bulldogs." Boiling Springs won. Philip, you're right. Big win for them last night. Wayne on Facebook says, "These round 2 matchups will be fire." I completely agree with you, Wayne. They're going to be a lot of fun. These round 2 matchups will be, and we're going to talk about them this morning. So hope you stay tuned on the show. Clay says Hillcrest Rams. That's right, Clay. How about those Hillcrest Rams? A big win last night for Hillcrest. I got to see the second half of that game. Philip says, not saying we beat Dutch Fork, but we owe them, talking about Boiling Springs there. Continue to get in, whether it's on the stream or on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. The phone lines are also open as well. The phone number is 844-326-3663. If you want to talk a little high school football, the phone lines are open for you to do so if you were at a game last night or want to talk about one of these round 2 matchups coming your way very, very soon. John Galloway back in the Ingles Market studio doing a great job as well, and always appreciate him. John, let's get to that audio that I sent you. I was at Hillcrest, as I mentioned last night. Alex, after the game, was able to catch up with both Bennett Swaggart, the head football coach of the Rams, and Jackson Free, the quarterback of the Hillcrest Rams. John, doesn't matter which one you play first, but it was fantastic being there. It was a great crowd on hand last night. Love seeing some really good folks over at Hillcrest, and here's what their quarterback and head coach had to say after the big win. Jackson, big win tonight. Coming into the game, you're spreading the ball out really well. Continue to do that tonight. What's this playoff win mean to you?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, we needed a big push going into Indian. I think they're a good team, and we're gonna be ready to come out and compete and have fun.
You talk about the end of the first half, being able to score twice right there, and kind of assert you guys and really not put them to sleep a little bit. But I feel like that was a big turning point in the football game.
Yeah, that was huge. I mean, we got a lot of momentum going into half, and I mean, we know they had the ball coming out of half, but that gave us a lot of confidence after a few flags, few penalties, few callbacks. So that gave us a lot of confidence coming back out there and competing and
About
driving
another
down
30 seconds left.
You say
and then we'll play
confidence.
the
How
second
much
one.
confidence does
Mike is
winning
still,
an actual playoff game give not only you but the team, because that's something that's pretty hard to achieve?
a lot. I mean, they're a good team, and their
Take
record
us
might
hot,
not show
please.
that, but they're in a tough region,
Okay.
really tough region. And they
Mike is
follow
hot.
all the
3
guys they
seed. Mike is
play.
hot.
And I mean, they're a tough team no matter what. I mean, they got a quarterback going to Division One. I mean, O-line.
We're gonna play the second one right now.
They got some guys over there, and they're well coached. So their quarterback did awesome tonight too. And I mean, they're a good team. So we went out and competed, and that's just huge for our confidence.
Or do you still feel like you guys need to do a little bit better to get over that hump?
Yeah, we should be smarter. I mean, I threw a pick early in the game. I was trying to play hero ball. I
5
should
seconds left.
have stayed dump down. And I mean, it's just a
Mike is
little
hot.
things, and I think we'll get those flicked. I think we will. And I feel like we'll go and compete with Indian Land, and we'll put on a good show.
That was Jackson Free, the quarterback of the Hillcrest Rams. What a night he had last night, man. He spreads the ball out so well. He's a good runner as well, Alex. And, man, you know, we're going to get to this Bennett Swaggart audio in just a second. But when you're Hillcrest, you talk about Fountain Inn and other programs in that area coming along. If you're a Hillcrest fan, you've got to just be so excited about the potential, the direction this program's going. The job that Bennett Swaggart's done, Alex, is tremendous. I think he's one of the better coaches in not just the upstate, but the state, and just looking at what he's done in this short time at Hillcrest. And when you have a guy like Jackson Free leading the charge, Alex, boy, does it make life easy.
Yeah, absolutely, Cole. And I mean, you talked about Jackson Free and what he spreading the ball around. I mean, what was the stat
It was
we
10
had?
different players had called a touchdown pass. And I asked them last night after the game, I said, the touchdowns you threw, I said, were they this was off the record. I said, were they any new receivers or was it the same guys? He said, no, the same guys. So
Same guys.
no, didn't make it 11 last
So
night.
those 10 are the guys that
Well, I
you
don't
have
know
to
if there
lock
was
down
11.
if you're Indian.
Yeah,
land,
you have to watch 10 guys. I don't know if there's another guy to throw it to. I know they still have one guy out, right? But
Yeah.
there's just a lot of talent on that football team. They're well coached and they play with emotion. They play, with a little edge. And Jackson Freeman is a special quarterback to watch. He's going to be a lot of fun to see, especially in his senior year as he's just a junior. But let's catch up with Bennett Swaggart. I got to catch up with him after the game last night. Here's what he had to say.
Well, I kept telling y'all we're a really young team. We got to do better about approaching the game in a more business-like approach, taking some of the emotion out of it. Now, having said that, this is the head coach that only got a personal foul tonight, too, for being probably a little emotional. So we all got to tighten up that way, coaches, players, and I feel good about everything.
Talk about the end of the first half. You were kind of able to assert your dominance right there, get 2 scores real quick, and kind of put the nail in that coffin early.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I thought that was the turning point of the game, right? We received it under 2 minutes ago. Free takes it down. I told the defense staff, hey, I got all 3 timeouts. We're going to burn them. They got them off on 3 straight plays. We got back. Free took us back down on another 2-minute drive, but this time with under a minute to go, and we still preserved all 3 timeouts. So my hat goes off to offensive coordinator Patrick Johnson, Jackson Free, offensive line, and all our receivers for making that happen.
What is it, man? I know you guys are young, but when things are hard, to kind of get that momentum going now, you've got a playoff win. Now you can ready to go on the road.
No, that's a big deal. And we can go back and learn from this, right? We can go back and demonstrate and show, look, this is where we're too emotional. This is where we weren't really playing football, right? We were playing on emotion. And like you said, a win's a win, especially this time of year. And we are just so excited to be back at practice next week.
How about that, man? I'll tell you, man, I said it a minute ago, Alex, and I mean it, just so much excitement around that program. And when you've got that guy, when you're a fan of Hillcrest and you've got a student playing there or you're just a fan and you've got that guy leading the charge, you're just ready to run through a freaking wall. And Indian Land, we'll see. We'll get into that matchup, Alex, because that'll be really interesting in round 2 because there's a lot of interesting round 2 matchups as Wayne brought up on the stream. But, man, I mean, this is a Hillcrest team that, they have the 1 state championship under Greg Porter. But to Todd Summers' point, when he asked that question about that playoff win, a playoff win at Hillcrest is very significant.
Yeah, a playoff win at Hillcrest, very significant. When you talk about the area that Hillcrest is in, a lot of historically, a lot of the kids that kind of grow up in that Simpsonville area, they're probably not thinking about going to Hillcrest to play football, and so it's difficult to win at the level that Hillcrest has to play at week in and week out. Yeah, it's difficult to win consistently. And you talk about the last several coaches that Hillcrest has had; they've been able to build on that.
Yeah,
and I think Bennett Swaggart is the right guy at this moment in time for Hillcrest, especially with the opening of Fountain Inn 4 years ago and kind of taking some of those kids from Hillcrest into the Fountain Inn school zone with Malden and some of those lines kind of getting redistricted down there. I think Bennett Swaggart is the perfect coach for Hillcrest right now. His attitude, his mentality, what he's able to do, what he's been able to do for Hillcrest and continue that strong winning, the strong winning ways that Greg Porter established.
Yeah.
A decade ago.
That's right.
And then Anthony Freight was able to build on as well after Greg Porter.
All of the scores from last night, if you just tuned in and missed Alex Guest with the scores, they're posted online at thefanupstate.com. They're on the front page. You can check them out there. Alex Guest read them off. He'll read them off again in hour number 2.
Sure.
But fanupstate.com, if you want to see every score in our coverage area right now, you can do so online at the Fan Upstate. Listen, we've got a lot to get to, a lot more reaction. We got to start looking ahead to round 2 as well. A loaded show coming your way, and it continues next on the Fan Upstate.
a question or comment? Call 844-FAN-PHONE.
Mike
Text
is hot.
71307 followed by keyword fan.
This is the Saturday Morning Scramble on the Fan Upstate.
Keeping it rolling on the Fan Upstate after round one of the high school football playoffs. He's Alex Guest. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you this morning. We're live at Ingalls Markets, Highway 9. It's an Inman address, but we call it Boiling Springs. It's the newer one, the one closest to the two schools, closest to Lake Bowen. That's where we are this morning on Highway 9 in the Boiling Springs, Inman area. Would love to see you this morning, talk a little high school football with you. And also, when you talk about high school football, Alex, the reality of it is, unfortunately, there were a lot of teams that their season came to an end last night, and you hate to see that.
Yeah, you hate to see that, and especially for some of those. And I'll just go on and say this, Cole.
Go ahead and say it.
You know, the game that I was at last night had a pretty significant injury early on in that game with Eastside and Lucas Tankersley. And you hate to see that because then, Lucas Tankersley goes out for the game.
You lose attendance.
Early in the game.
I left.
Yeah, you lose attendance because nobody wants to see a game where the star player's not playing, I guess. And then you talk about now that season comes to an end, not only for Lucas Tankersley and his injury, but then also for Eastside.
And I'm glad you brought that up with Lucas.
Yeah.
Because he is not only a football player, but he's a very good wrestler who was really close last year to winning a state championship, Alex. I think he finished third, and a lot of people were projecting him to win a state championship this year. So I tweeted it out last night. Just so unfortunate for him for that injury to happen. I really have loved watching and covering and following him this year. He's just been a tremendous talent, Lucas Tankersley at Eastside, and they still have some good talent as well with Peyton Schrader and other guys. I just hate to see that injury last night. You said it. It was a bad one. It was a lower body injury, and hope he recovers well because that kid is a special talent, Alex. What game surprised you the most last night? We do that every week. We talk about it and bring it up, and we hadn't had a chance to get to it yet. But when you look at last night's scores, obviously we talked about the games we got wrong with Boiling Springs, Malden, Pendleton, Broome. But when you look at these scores, what surprised you? What stood out to you the most last night?
I think the game that stood out really the most, Cole, is the final of the Daniel Dreer game. And you joked about it. You tongue-in-cheek joked about it, and it wasn't necessarily a joke when I was reading off the scores and said that it was Daniel 14-10 winners. Everybody came into that game expecting Daniel to win that game by 3 scores.
Right. At least 3 scores. Yeah. I think you're right. That one surprised me. Boiling Springs, Malden, obviously a game I got wrong. Again, Boiling Springs just did a great job toward the end of that game, figuring out how to get in the end zone. They took a timeout, drew up a really good play. I think it was a really good play called by Brian Turk just to figure out a way to get the talent in the end zone. And it was a really good play call. So Boiling Springs wins a playoff game. They will continue. And they'll head down 26 this Friday to take on Dutch Fork. So that one surprised me a little bit as well. I'll tell you this. I didn't know if he was coming back, but Spartanburg J.O. Man 45-3 last night. We'll talk to Mark Hodge here in a few minutes, Alex. But for them last night, getting Trenton Lynch back, number one, is huge. I think at one point last night he had like 6 carries for 100-something yards. He had a big, big night. But they're a different team. He finished the night with 6 rushes for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns, averaging 20 yards per carry. That's not bad from your starting running back to his back. But it was total domination last night, Alex, for Spartanburg. J.L. Mann's season comes to an end, a tough first year for Bryce Smiley. But Spartanburg last night able to total 518 yards of offense, which is big, 280 through the air, and 238 on the ground. So very balanced attack last night for Spartanburg. They were really good. Again, Trenton Lynch was back. Trey Burke, 14 of 25 last night, 3 touchdowns for Trey Burke, no interceptions, 222 yards for the quarterback of the Vikings last night, Alex. Wow. His longest was 73 yards. Zeke Bell-Boyd was his favorite target last night, 6 receptions for 40 yards. His longest was a 19. He had a big 73-yard touchdown to Kendrion Keenan. And Spartanburg's a team that, Alex, with Trenton Lynch, we know what they can do. And we saw that against Dorman.
Yeah.
If Trenton Lynch comes back, and it looks like last night Mark Hodge just eased them back in a little bit, this is a very dangerous team in the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, heck, you got your star player back, and one of the best running backs in the state. I mean,
yeah,
you now have a matchup with Ridgeview, and that's an interesting matchup. Ridgeview, obviously, coming off of their first round bye. Then you've got you talk about now. What are you going to do going into Ridgeview? Ridgeview's got kind of that momentum, I guess you could say.
They're a good team.
But now with Trenton Lynch back, Spartanburg coming back, here they come down the tracks. They're coming.
They're a dangerous team.
And they looked really good last night. They've looked really good in every game that Trenton Lynch has played in this season. And they've looked not so great in the games that he hasn't played in.
Well, he's, to your point, one of the best backs in the state. So
yeah, I would be scared if I'm Ridgeview now with Spartanburg coming to town.
I'm with you. Last night you were at the Gaffney East Side game. I started out there, did the show from there yesterday. And look, I joked about it, but I did. I left when Tankersley went down. And that's no disrespect to anybody else at the East Side, but I knew that was going to change the game, Alex. Last night, Gaffney gets it done 28-10. They started off strong, 14 points from the Indians in the first quarter, Alex. One of them was basically a kick return for a touchdown. I mean, he didn't take it all the way back. He was tripped up at the one, right? So a big night for Gaffney. 330 total yards of offense last night. Eastside 268 yards. Gaffney scored 7 in the second, did not score in the third, and then put 7 more on the board in the fourth quarter to polish off that 28-10 victory. And, man, it was a good night for the Indians, a big night for the Indians to get that win, a playoff win, and the final home game of the season, Alex, for the Gaffney Indians.
Maybe.
As they go on the road. I'll take that bet. As they go on the road now to Greenwood. But you like what you saw last night from Gaffney getting the playoff win? Donnie Littlejohn's first career playoff win. How about that?
Yeah, Donnie Littlejohn's first career playoff win. And, Gaffney head coaches since the modern era of playoffs. It started in 1968. Gaffney head coaches are undefeated in their first ever playoff game.
There you go.
Congrats to Donnie Littlejohn and his team last night. Yeah, I liked what I saw. There was, especially early in the game, very disciplined football by both teams, really. But, when you talk about Gaffney in recent weeks, they've kind of played a little bit undisciplined, haven't necessarily, you look at the stats and you've got 15 penalties for 1,000 yards. I mean, I say that jokingly, but it feels that way sometimes. And, last night, I mean, Banks Boughton came out. He looked really good throughout the game last night. Gaffney had a couple of injuries that weren't, necessarily as serious, as severe as what we saw with Lucas Tankersley. But, Gaffney had some injuries that kind of slowed down their production as the game went on and got into the second half. Those guys kind of didn't play as much in the second half anyway, because you had a 28-3 and a 28-10 lead, and didn't necessarily need to try to wear those guys out, knowing that you had a big matchup with Greenwood.
Greenville last night, 42-35, Alex, over Nation Ford. This is the game that we talked about. We knew coming in there would be a lot of points scored. We talked about it on our Thursday podcast. And look, we were right. I mean, this was a high-scoring affair last night. And I'll be honest with you, I picked Greenville. So did you. But I will tell you, I was nervous in taking Greenville. I thought, man, don't be surprised if you look down and Nation Ford's won this ball game last night. A big night for Scoot Watson, who we'll have on the show here in the second hour. But Greenville, a team that you said it earlier in the week, how would they respond after that tough loss to Hannah? What happened? And now, boom, just like that, we're going to get another rematch, in just a few days, Alex. But Greenville, a gutsy win, and I think Scoot Watson would be the first to tell you this is a completely different Greenville team than they were a few weeks ago. They're playing with a lot of momentum, and I know they had the big win early in the season over Gaffney, but this is a Greenville team that's starting to kind of get hot, it looks like. I mean, they're scoring a lot more points as of late, and this is a team that, hey, maybe, just maybe you'll watch out for in the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely, Cole. And you talked about the most recent games for Greenville. I mean, they lost their last 2 regular season games to Hillcrest and to Hannah. You know, that Hillcrest game wasn't even close. It was 45-14. I think it was 45-0 before Greenville was able to put up those 14 points, kind of garbage time touchdowns, if you will. And then 27-24 to TL Hannah. And their other region loss was Greenwood, a 42-14 loss. Greenville started the season with that 34-0 loss to Dorman. And, I think you and I both were kind of looking at each other like, okay, maybe Greenville, it's going to take some time. Maybe this first year with Scoot Watson as the head coach.
Good coach, man.
And then they turn it around. They pick up a big win over Riverside, a huge win over Gaffney in week 2. And I think that win over Gaffney kind of set the momentum, set the tone for the rest of the season for Greenville. They went into a bye week, had 3 straight wins in region play after that bye week, and then, kind of hit the back half of that schedule with 3 losses in 4 games. But, yeah, I think Scoot Watson has them playing really good football at the right time here. I'll be interested to see what they're able to do this next week with a win or with a game against TL Hannah again.
That's right.
A game that they lost. Cole would still be sitting there.
Yeah,
kicking out of bounds.
Hate to see Greer's season come to an end last night, but the Yellow Jackets fall short to Camden 38-10, so their season comes to an end. Westside gets a big win, Alex, and then Wren gets a big win. This was a game with Wren Blue Ridge that we talked about early in the week, just not knowing what Wren would look like. If Montu Brown was still injured. And I'll tell you what, they didn't miss a beat last night. 42 points for the Hurricanes, and man, they took care of business. Now, Blue Ridge did score 28 points and kept that game interesting, which you love to see because John Boggs has done a great job this year. By the way, congratulations to John Boggs on being the head coach for the North-South team this year.
Yeah.
For the North team, but this is a John Boggs team that went down last night fighting, and Wren's a good football team, and that's looked like it was a really interesting game last night.
Yeah, and look, Blue Ridge, they'll finish their season at 6-5. They had a 6-4 regular season record, which is really good out there at Blue Ridge. There's a lot of teams that would kill for a 6-win season, and that Blue Ridge, really has kind of been one of those teams that they would love to consistently have 6-7 wins on their schedule every year. I mean, a few big wins, few good wins over some really good teams this year for Blue Ridge. Also, you mentioned it. Congratulations to John Boggs, and looking forward to see what he can do with the North team in that North-South Bowl, the North-South game. But, yeah, again, Wren and their team and what they are able to do, and, Montu Brown and that just backfield the what Wren is able to do and just run the ball down your throat the entire night like they do. I'll be interested to see this rematch with Westside next week.
That's right. Pendleton also with the big win last night. You hate to see Broom's season come to an end. Lynn Fleming and those guys had a lot of battles to, fight and get through all season long with some injuries and players going down. And love Lynn Fleming and those guys over at Broome. So a tough way to see their season come to an end. The game that they led last night a couple of times, that went back and forth, but Pendleton comes out on top 24-21 over Broome. Bulldogs get a win in the Centurion season, and 3A comes to an end. That Mountain View Prep St. Joe's game was a lot closer than we expected, right, Alex? 28-27, Mountain View Prep. That was one I was following along last night and saw that score and thought, is that the right score? Mountain View Prep only winning by 1. Look, they found a way to win. Congratulations to them. I just didn't think that game would be that close.
Yeah, neither did I, Cole. And, we talked about all the rematches that have happened in week 1 of the playoffs here. That's a rematch from week 2 of this season, a game in which Mountain View Prep won 66-27. So, St. Joe's, they did the same thing. They put up 27 points, but Mountain View Prep able to squeak by last night. they say a win is a win, regardless
That's
of
right.
if it's by 1 point or 100 points. And so Gray Ramsey and his crew, Gray Ramsey only in a second year as a head coach and has done a pretty good job of it over at Mountain View Prep. They're
Yeah.
21-2 so far in
Well,
2 seasons.
You want to figure out how to win close games,
Yeah.
and I think that was big last night for Gray Ramsey and that team. Obviously you'd like to win by a lot more, but I also think there's a lot to be said about figuring out how to win close games, because the reality of it is Mountain View Prep, you just mentioned his Riker there, they haven't been in a lot of close games in his tenure. So being able to say, hey, now we've found a way to win a close, grinded out football game, I think that could be big for Mountain View Prep going forward.
Yeah.
We'll put one more bow on what happened last night, start looking ahead. Final segment of hour number 1 next on the Fan Ups.
Scramble only on the Fan Upstate.
Final segment of hour number 1 right here as we are live this morning at Ingles, talking a little high school football. A big win for a lot of teams last night. Unfortunately, some seasons coming to an end as well. Alex Gass was at Gaffney Eastside last night. I started out there, got to see the end or the second half of Hillcrest Riverside. Gideon Marib and the Warriors season comes to an end last night. Gideon Marib was 15 of 24, 148 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But on the other side, Jackson Free last night, 17 of 21, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did have 1 interception as well. You heard him talk about in that interview from earlier. But, man, how about Nye Allen last night running the ball for Hillcrest, 16 carries, 88 yards, and a touchdown. Jackson Free, the quarterback, on the ground last night, 5 rushes, 66 yards, and a touchdown. That's pretty stout there. Josh Smith also got in on the action, 13 carries, 44 yards. And Stevenson was a guy last night. Him and Logan Moore, 6 receptions for Stevenson of the Hillcrest Rams, 73 yards, Logan Moore, 4 receptions, 86 yards and a touchdown. J.K. Stroud, 3 receptions, 31 yards and a touchdown. Najee Harris, 2 receptions for 46 yards and a touchdown. Just spreading that ball around was Hillcrest and Jackson Free last night. Logan Moore had, Alex, just a uber impressive touchdown. I got it on tape, and I put it on Twitter at D. Bryson. A grown man touchdown run as he was, I think, tackled, somewhere near the 10, 15-yard line. And what he did after that, just dragging Riverside Warriors with him. A big win, a big touchdown from him last night. He's a fantastic player, really, really hard-working player from what Coach Swaggart says. But a lot of good games, and now we turn the page, Alex, and say, what happens in round 2? What classification do we start in here? What do you want to start?
Let's start with.
All right, let's go 5A.
Okay.
Dutch Fork last night was on a bye, so
Yeah.
Dutch Fork would host the winner of Malden Boiling Springs. Boiling Springs, we talked about this, had a really big win over Malden. So Boiling Springs making the trip to Irmo to take on Dutch Fork. That's the 9 versus the 1, Alex. That should be interesting to see. Again, no disrespect here to Boiling Springs, but that's going to be a tall task for the Bulldogs in round 2.
Yeah, tall task for Boiling Springs. And look, these two teams have played, we mentioned that they're no strangers to each other. This will be the 10th time in 14 seasons
a
that
lot.
they have played. This will now be the 3rd straight year that they've played in the playoffs. And Boiling Springs does have one win against Dutch Fork. It came all the way back in 2011. The
Bruce
first time
Clark.
they ever played. Yeah.
Bruce Clark was the head coach of the Bulldogs, and, man, I tell you what, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you're right. It kind of been a thorn in the side, if you will, of the Bulldogs. So Dutch Fork, Boiling Springs will match up in round 2. Rock Hill defeated Spring Valley last night. That game wasn't close, Alex. So Rock Hill, the 5 seed, will move on and take on the 4 seed in Burns. That game will be at Burns High School, as Burns had a bye last night. So you'll have Rock Hill and Burns going at it. You'll also have Blythewood, who beat Clover last night. It's kind of surprising to me. I say that. I thought that game might go in the other direction. Blythewood will take the trip up 26 to Roebuck. It's a 10 versus a 2. Blythewood taking on Dorman. And Spartanburg with a win last night over J.L. Mann will travel to Ridgeview to take on those guys. So round 2, 5A Division I matchup, Spartanburg at Ridgeview, Blythewood at Dorman, Rock Hill at Burns, and Boiling Springs at Dutch Fork. Let's go to the phone lines real quick. Kevin in Inman wants to chime in. What's up, Kevin?
What's up, buddy?
How are you, man?
Oh, man, I'm doing all right, buddy. Just coming out the last game from the Panthers last night.
Yeah, tough one, right?
Tough one. And then when you got to go play on wet carpet and we slide everywhere and they stay gripped to the ground, I don't understand that part, but hey.
And Kevin, I mean, I'd like to hear your perspective. Just a really tough year for Chapman. 1-win season and, a Chapman program that was not far removed from winning region championships and state championships. What went wrong in your mind? I mean, where do they go from here?
Get in the weight room, man. Get in the weight room every chance that you get. Every chance that you get to be around your brothers, man, just do it. And that's what it's about, man. Like, you can go play football every day, go to practice, but you never see each other. You never hang around each other. You never really get a bond with each other, man. So now that, like, Chapman has about 9th graders, 10th graders, and 11th graders, man. So a lot of these guys got 1 to 2 years left in the end, and we got to get together, hit this weight room hard, figure out who's what, and go from there, man, and just kind of start it over.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. You got to just flush it, and then hopefully next. I mean, they still have the talent that they had, a few years ago. Kevin, you think that's a big part of it too?
So the thing is, we got a lot of young guys that never really had varsity experience.
Gotcha.
So we got some skill guys. We got a gang of skill guys, man. We just got to get this O-line and D-line together and get them boys in the weight room, get them boys strong. Because as a cornerback, you can't go up for 4 or 5 seconds if you're not getting pressure up front.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you can't establish a running game if you got a young O-line and they still trying to be cohesive and things are coming together, but they're coming together late. And I seen a lot of differences last And I think there's a lot of good things to take into February, March, and going forward.
Sure.
So, I mean, and you're going to have those. Everybody can't be Abbeville and just win year after year after year after year. So, you're going to have those times where it's down, and you got to fight to get back to where you belong.
That's right. Kev, thanks for the call, man. Appreciate you as always.
You know?
All right, let's continue the conversation real quick before. Actually, you know what? We'll do it on the other side. Hour number 2's on the other side. We've got Scoot Watson of Greenville. We've got Mark Hodge of Spartanburg. We've got to get to the rest of the brackets, Alex. A lot more to get to, and we'll do it hour number 2 right here on the Fan Ups.
Credit Union is a Saturday morning scramble and your local Ingalls Market.
It's the Saturday morning scramble on the Fan Upstate.
It is hour number 2 of the Saturday Scramble. We're keeping the high school football conversation rolling right here on the Fan Upstate. So glad to be with you this morning as we'll get to all of the scores from last night here in just a few minutes and about 10 minutes on the program. But we've got to go to the phone lines where we're talking to Scoot Watson, head football coach of the Greenville Red Raiders after a big 42-35 win last night over Nation Ford. Coach, how the heck are you?
Doing good, man. Doing real good.
I bet you are after a big playoff win. Let me ask you a big picture question first, Coach. You come into Greenville, first year, a lot of new pieces, a lot of moving parts. To be able to get a playoff win in your first year, I mean, that just feels big.
Yeah, it definitely is, especially considering, what a lot of those kids had went through the year before.
Sure.
So it was, it was good coming in and, kind of, getting the ball turned a little bit and getting those kids excited about playing the game.
A big one last night, Coach, it was a high-scoring affair between you and Nation Ford. Again, final score 42-35. Greenville comes out on top. Going into last night's game, you and your coaching staff, did y'all have an idea that this one could be high-scoring like it was last night?
Yeah, we definitely did. We thought that we had a good enough game plan to kind of slow them down in the first half. I felt like our defense did a pretty good job of slowing them down or getting off the field on third down. That was huge. But second half, man, Jaden Scott, man, received from Nation Ford, man. I mean, he had an unbelievable second half, catching some big time balls, and Jake did a good job with those kids last night. Especially with that passing attack that they have.
And you're right, man. They've been able to elevate that passing attack all throughout the season. Nation Ford season comes to an end. Greenville advances. We're joined by Scoot Watson, the head football coach of the Greenville Red Raiders after a big win, 42-35 over Nation Ford. Offensively for you guys, Coach, what was it last night that enabled you guys to find the success that you had?
DeAndre Dogan, our little running back, man, he did a good job running the football last night. Our offensive line did a good job. And Keyshawn Farrow, he's obviously a dual threat guy. He did a good job moving the ball, running the ball, and throwing. He did an awesome job. And Chip Bryant, man, down late and stretch. I think Keyshawn got a little banged up, and we put Chip in, and Chip kind of closed the game out for us last night.
Certainly a big win, Coach. When you talk about going into the postseason, do you and your staff tweak a lot? Like when you evaluate the regular season and when it comes to its end, do you go back and evaluate the things you wanted to do better? And in that evaluation process as you go into the postseason, how much tweaking, how much change do you guys do? Or do you try to just keep it, pretty close to what you've been doing all season?
Yeah, I mean, you are who you are at this point of the year. You're always evaluating. You're always trying to see what you can do better. And I'm always trying to see what you can do to make the kids better. So just because it's a playoff doesn't necessarily mean that you go in and just really change a whole lot of what you do. You are who you are at this time of the year, and you just want to kind of eliminate penalties and tighten down on the fundamentals of the game.
Yeah, that's a big part of it as well. And Coach, what were those things that you wanted to tighten? Like when y'all staff evaluated, what were some of those things you felt like, okay, if we're going to go make a playoff run, what were some of the things you felt like you needed to improve on?
I think the biggest thing for us is just penalties, man. Penalties are huge, man. We aid a bunch of drives defensively, with a lot of penalties. It happened last night. We had a bunch of pass interference calls last night. Some were questionable, some were deserved. But simple things, and that goes back to fundamentals and, DBs getting their head around and, playing within our scheme and having clean eyes on the back end. Things of that nature. So, on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively, penalties continue at this time of the year. Of course, everybody's good. So you definitely don't want to aid
That's right.
By being undisciplined and having a bunch of penalties.
Coach, when you talk about penalties, I've asked a million different coaches this question, but want to hear your thoughts on it as well. especially late in the year like you are now, or to your point, you don't want to have many penalties in the postseason. Is it is it personnel? Is it coaching? What is it in terms of getting those penalties right, knocking down some of those penalty numbers? How do you go about doing that?
Well, number one, you have to show it to them on film. You look at it on film, and then as our individual coaches, our position coaches, we kind of got to, kind of dial in on those things in practice. When you see those things happen in practice, you have to jump on top of it then, so that they don't continue to show us ugly head during games on Friday.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, no doubt. We're joined by Scoot Watson, the head football coach of the Greenville Red Raiders. Well, Coach, you got a big win last night, but, man, we're going back in time as we're going forward in time, meaning you guys get T.L. Hanna one more time. Before we get into Hanna, let me ask you this question, because I brought it up on the radio earlier this week. Was there any worry from you and your staff on having to get your kids to flush what happened last Friday? Because, a lot of people could let that kind of hang over a little bit and then carry on a little bit too long. How did your team kind of flush what happened against Hanna?
I kind of knew after the game when we got in the locker room, it's great to see that they care. A lot of the kids were upset, but come Monday, when we came out to practice this Monday,
sure,
the energy was through the roof, and so we kind of could tell during warm-ups at practice, during film on Monday, that the kids were locked in and dialed in, and we didn't talk about it a lot. We addressed what we needed to address on Monday in film. We talked to the team after the game, met with the team on Monday, and then, after that, we focused on next forward, and those kids definitely were disappointed, and it was great to see, that they cared. And that they wanted to do what they had to do in order to be able to get another opportunity to play T.L. Hanna.
Do you struggle with that as well, Coach, being the leader, being the head coach, in terms of flushing that, getting out of your system? Because I know a lot of coaches out there, they probably mull on those losses a little bit too long. And in your case, what happened and how T.L. Hanna won that game, you could, second guess yourself until the cows came home about, well, maybe we should have done that different on that kickoff or vice versa. I mean, how do you do that as a head coach?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, being a leader, you have to let stuff go. I struggled with it last Saturday morning. Oh, yeah. We struggled a little bit with it, but, it is what it is. We thankful that we got another opportunity to play this past Friday, last night. You don't take those things for granted.
Sure.
So sometimes you don't know why things happen. Things happen for a reason, so, you keep pushing forward and just remember to be grateful for the opportunity that you had to coach and to work with kids. Once you put things in perspective, it kind of helps you get over those.
That's right. Coach, you got T.L. Hanna Friday, second round. I ask coaches this all the time when it's a rematch. If you guys played in week one, you're talking about two different football teams 10 weeks later, right? But you didn't play in week one. You played literally, 8 days ago. How much of what happened last Friday in terms of the execution, the X's and O's, how much of that do you use in this game plan, or do you kind of treat it as you're playing a whole new T.L. Hanna team?
I mean, T.L. Hanna, they are who they are.
Sure.
They're not going to change. I mean, they're not. Their offense is tough to stop.
Yeah.
They're very tough to stop. Fortunately for us, let's say 8 days ago,
yeah.
we played pretty good on defense. We didn't shut them down, but we slowed them down.
Sure.
We got off the field quite a few times and forced them into punting situations which allowed our offense to move the ball. We know that type of offense is tough for those type teams to play from behind. And it was tit-tat, for 47 minutes and 57 seconds. It was really back and forth. But our defense did a real good job in the last contest. And hopefully, we can be disciplined next Friday and have another pretty good showing.
Well, Coach, appreciate your time as always. Congratulations on the playoff win last night, and hopefully we'll talk to you again real soon.
All right, awesome.
Coach Watson, that's Scoot Watson, the head football coach of the Greenville Red Raiders after a big win last night. Alex over T.L. Hanna. That doesn't happen often. You and I have been doing this for a while, and every now and then you'll see a quick turnaround, a quick rematch, but you just don't see that happen often with a team in Greenville turning around this quickly. They just played Hannah 8 days ago, and now they're playing them again in 6 days. You got to think that, what happened a couple of days ago, a few days ago, is still going to be in the minds of those players. Hopefully not, but man, this is wild, seeing the same game twice in, a 3-week span?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. You don't really see it happen a lot. I got one for you, though.
Okay.
Midland Valley and North Augusta, they played last night. They also played 8 days ago.
How about that?
Yeah, so it does happen, but you really don't see it happen that often. And you're right. I mean, you talk about Greenville and TL Hannah. Excuse me, two teams that really just. I mean, if you're Greenville, you heard Coach Watson there say, you kind of flushed that Hannah loss pretty quickly. They were ready to go this past Monday for Nation Forward, and now you flush the Nation Forward win pretty quickly, and you get ready and say, hey, we had these guys on the ropes, we had them beat, and we just, like you mentioned, 47 minutes and 57 seconds of time they had them beat. And so now you just got to figure out, how do you get those 3 seconds back?
No doubt.
Here going into the second round.
No doubt, man. So that'll be a lot of fun to see how that one plays out. And I'll tell you this, as of right now, I don't really have an early lean on it.
I don't either. No.
I just don't know, man. I don't know. We talked about 5A Division I bracket. Let's take a look, Alex, at 5A Division II. Catawba Ridge last night with a win over Fort Mill, a low-scoring game, by the way, will advance. And congratulations, you get Northwestern, who is the 1 seed in Division II 5A. Northwestern will host Catawba Ridge. Greenwood will host Gaffney, who defeated the East Side last night. TL Hannah will host Greenville. We just talked about that game. Indian Land will host Hillcrest, the Rams, who defeated Riverside last night. So second-round matchups in 5A Division II, some really good, intriguing matchups. And, I would be a rich man last night or today, Alex, if I had $1 for every time a Gaffney fan asked me last night, well, how did Burns get a bye? How did Burns? I think I've answered that question 96 times this week. And, I don't understand. Maybe people don't realize, and I know Gaffney beat Burns, but again, not trying to be disrespectful. You're in 2 different divisions.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be upset about it all you want. There's 2 divisions in 5A. That's why. That's why I said before the game, playoff-wise, the loser of this game, I mean, it doesn't really it didn't have the playoff implications that it would have if they were in the same division. And a lot of fans upset about that, but it's 2 different divisions. You are in a different playoff. I mean, you're not even in the same division. So I guess that's hard for some people to wrap their head around. But my gosh, if I had $1 for every time I had to answer that question this week.
Well, you and me both, Cole.
Good.
I walked into the stadium last night and had 3 people ask me before I even got to where I wanted to watch the game from. How did Burns get a bye? And then once I got, folks were texting me throughout the week. Well, how's Burns getting a bye? It doesn't make sense. How's
it
Gaffney
makes
not
perfect sense.
blah, blah, blah.
There's 2 different divisions.
So yeah,
Do people not listen to this show? Or
I
something?
guess not. I
mean,
guess
my
they.
gosh.
I mean, they watch us. They got us on the radio
it's
dial.
Just, wow.
But maybe they don't listen when we
You're not
explain
the
playoff
same
system.
postseason division. I don't know how many times you have to say that. In 3A last, or actually, let's go to 4A. South Point was the one. They had a bye, Alex. And I'm sorry, they did not have a bye. They defeated Buford last.
Man,
maybe they did have a bye.
What are you looking at?
Maybe they did. Maybe they had a bye. They might have had a bye last night. 63-13 over Buford.
Okay.
So South Point advances. Fountain Inn falls to Emerald. So you've got South Point Emerald in the second round of the playoffs. Seneca with a close win. That game surprised me last night and how close that game was over Lancaster. Seneca will host AC Flora in the second round. AC Flora defeated York last night. Daniel, a close win over Dreer last night. Alex will host Camden. Camden defeated Greer last night. So Camden moves on to take on Daniel. Westside, the 3 seed, will host Wren. Again, another rematch from just a couple of weeks ago, right? That Thursday night game that you and I were at.
Yeah.
Wren defeated Blue Ridge last night. Westside defeated Pickens. So a region championship rematch. Westside hosting this time. It'll be on a Friday, not a Thursday like it was the night before Halloween, Alex. But Westside Ren, that could be a lot of fun round 2.
Yeah, that could be a lot of fun, Cole. And I mean, do we have did Montu Brown play last night?
I do not. I was waiting to hear back if he did or not.
So that's I think for me that's kind of the big factor in the Wren Westside rematch is if Montu Brown is healthy
Hopefully
and is
he
able
is,
to
man.
play. Absolutely, yeah. And so, because we saw what Wren was able to do on that first drive against Westside. They were able to move downfield, and then as soon as he went down, as soon as he went out of that game, it was just like a switch flip.
Yeah.
Whatever the word I'm looking for. And Westside just was able to dominate that game.
That'll be
from
fun.
that point on.
That'll be a lot of fun to
Yeah.
see that rematch. In 3A second round, Powdersville will host Pendleton. Powdersville defeated Carolina last night. Pendleton defeated Brome. 4-seed Crescent will host Mountain View Prep. Crescent defeated Union County. Mountain View Prep defeated St. Joe's 28-27. So Crescent hosting Mountain View Prep. Woodruff, the 2-seed, hosting Christ Church. Man, that'll be a good game.
Yeah.
Or could be a good game, rather. Christ Church, the 7, defeated the 10 last night. Walhalla 47-7. Woodruff 49-7 over West Oak. So you have Woodruff hosting Christ Church in the second round. Belton Honeypath, Alex, the 3-seed, hosting Southside Christian. I know Belton Honeypath's really good, but now you're going to find out just how good Southside Christian is because they've had an exceptional year as well, region champions. So those are the upper state teams in 3A. In 2A, how about this? Saluda with a win last night over Mid-Carolina, and their congratulatory gift is making the trip to Clinton, who defeated North Central, Alex. 9 Saluda at 1 Clinton. Andrew Jackson, the 4, defeated 96 last night, and they will host the 5 Fairfield Central, who defeated Chesney. The Chesney Eagles season comes to an end. Chester, who defeated Blacksburg 50-6 last night, Alex. By the way, you know that game was only 7-0 at the end of the first quarter?
I did know that. Yeah. No.
And, boy.
I thought I was going to have to make a trip to Chester real quick.
Just to see Chester defeats Blacksburg. They will host Batesburg-Leesville. Batesburg defeated Eau Claire last night.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah, Eau Claire.
42
which is French for Clearwater.
No way.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Did you make that up, or is that
No,
true?
the more you know.
I'm gonna start calling it French water instead of Eau Claire.
Clear.
What'd you say it was?
Clearwater.
Oh, it's French for Clearwater.
French for Clearwater. Yeah.
So we're gonna start calling them Clearwater Eau Claire.
Okay.
I like that. Look at you.
Yeah, there you go.
Did you take French?
I did.
Okay. Let's see. Where were we? That's all the 2A upper state, right?
Yeah.
The rest are lower state.
Yeah, I think.
Anything 1A, Abbeville defeated Great Falls, so Abbeville will host Louisville. Let's see. Sorry, sometimes these brackets, it's early in the morning, and get these brackets mixed up. I hopefully have I had any errors and corrections?
No, I think you're good.
Are you double checking me?
Yeah.
Blackville Hilda will host McCormick. Where in the world is Blackville Hilda?
Blackville Hilda will host C.A. Johnson. They
See, I told you. Look,
there you go.
These brackets are running
You'll
together,
get there.
and I knew I was going to make a mistake. Blackville Hilda will host C.A. Johnson. Okay. Hunter Kennard, Tyler, the 2-seed. We get these 1A teams, and I start struggling, don't I? Hunter Kennard, Tyler, Alex will host Ware Shoals. And then let's see, is that all no, one more. Lamar will host Wagner Sally, the 3 versus the 11. You get to these 1A schools, you don't know where they are. You don't know, if they're any good or not. But there's your 1A. The only team remotely close to our coverage area in 1A is obviously Abbeville, who will host Louisville on Friday night. So those are your round 2 matchups. We'll take a deep dive into them later on in the show, do a little early leans, Alex, and see where we're leaning in terms of winners and losers on Friday night. But we've got to run off to a break. Mark Hodge, the head football coach of the Spartanburg Vikings, joins us next right here on the Fan Upstairs.
FCU.com. Member NCUA.
High school football
Mike
rules
is
on the
hot.
Saturday morning scramble.
Only on the Fan Upstate.
Keeping it rolling here in hour number 2 of the show. Want to say thanks to Scoot Watson, the head football coach of the Greenville Red Raiders, for joining us in that very last segment, talking about Greenville's big win last night over Nation Ford. And we keep it rolling on the Fan Upstate as we're joined by Mark Hodge, the head football coach of the Spartanburg Vikings, after a 45-3 win for those Spartanburg Vikings last night. Coach, a big win, and man, when you look at that stat sheet, a familiar name that you guys, it looks like you're easing back into action. How are you, Coach?
I'm blessed. I was working this morning, so it's always good in November.
That's right. It is a good thing to have one more, and you guys do have one more for now, maybe and hopefully more than just one, but a big 45-3 win last night. A JL Man team that's really struggled under first-year head coach Bryce Smiley. What was you and your staff going into the game against JL Man? Did you feel like, you had to bring Trenton back in a full capacity? I think he had 6 carries or so last night. What was kind of the game plan going into that game last night against the Patriots?
Yeah, it's been a pretty wild season. We've had
Yeah.
a ton of injuries. I think we've had 16 surgeries and 17 and 18 has been scheduled.
Wow.
We've got, I don't know exactly, but a handful of varsity kids have been out for the year. Linebackers and Carter Watt is out for the year, and Butch Vaughn, the free safety, is out for the year. A couple other kids out for the year. And Trent got hurt, so we kind of went through a mental lull, honestly. Big win against Norman, and then the last couple of weeks been pretty difficult, just processing everything and getting our focus right and all that other stuff. And so we knew Trenton had a potential to play, which was a shot in the arm. I think he had 6 carries last night. I think it just reminded everybody what we can be and who we can be. And so hopefully that'll, trigger us moving forward. So, they didn't know he was going to play until he actually played. So hopefully that'll be a big spark. To me, the best player in the state. You take him off the team and you see what happens. And we put him on the team, you see what happens. So,
that's right. Coach, how is he? How is Trenton? I mean, do you feel like going forward in the playoffs, you'll still be able to use them in a heavier capacity, if you will?
Yeah, I hope each week, he can continue to, get more reps and, being careful and cautious.
Sure.
First of all, for him, he's
that's right.
Great human being, great player, and I want to make sure that he's safe. He's itching and ready to go, and everybody's willing for him to go, and he just want to make sure he is okay to go. And I think he showed a lot last night that he's still pretty spectacular, and each week his body's is feeling a little bit more too. So hopefully we'll get him back to full capacity pretty soon.
And then you talk about the confidence of winning a playoff game. I mean, you said it without Trenton Lynch. You had some turbulence there, but you're still able to get him back. And I would assume winning a playoff game is kind of also be a shot in the arm, because those it's hard to win playoff games, and that's a big win for you guys last night.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, winning playoff games, there's so few that get to do it and to be able to do it. And, we've had a history of winning there too, so I think that's bring in hopefully some more confidence. We played really well against the best teams in the state this year. Some games, not whole games, but in every game we have played better than that team at some point in time. And so we just got to harness that. And, now it comes down to discipline, details, turnovers, all those little bitty things is the difference between playing another week and not.
And when you talk about playing another week, the competition obviously elevates as you go. What was one of the things, or more than one, if you had them, that when you and your staff kind of evaluated seasons in, that you felt like you really could, take this team to the next level by doing what?
Well, I think just play. Honestly, not getting a bye is actually pretty good for us. We've got so many first-year starters, and then so many kids having to play new positions or two becoming a starter due to injury, that the more we play, the better we get.
Yeah.
There's only one way to get experience now. You always pray and hope that you don't get another injury, which I think we were fortunate last night that everybody came out healthy. And so you just, at some point in time, it clicks. You feel like it's
getting very close to clicking. I think Trey's done a really good job with the offense, and like we're almost hitting like it's supposed to hit, just not quite totally. A lot
Sure.
of that has been that, Trey was missed 2 games to injury, and Trenton's been out, offensive linemen have been out. It's just like you're constantly playing catch up. So hopefully we can play long enough that the thing catches up. So at the end, you want to peak it this time of the year, and I feel like we're right there. It's just, it's got to happen.
Coach, when you talk about Trey Burke at quarterback, he's had a great season. He had a really good game last night. How much is his play and game elevated when he does have Trenton Lynch to his right or left?
Oh, I mean, it's just wonders for both of them. We played with Trenton without Trey, and played with Trey without
That's
Trenton,
right.
and we're obviously better with both of them. And, because they just put so much pressure now on the defense. So Trey's got the arm; he can throw it anywhere on the field, from any position on the field. Then obviously Trenton puts so much pressure that you got to add extra guys to the box. And, I think Trey's better the more guys that are actually in the box. With his arm strength and his height and vision, I think he does a really good job of getting balls in the tight windows. But as you add to the box, those windows expand.
Sure.
So both of them don't see, obviously is the best for us.
Coach, I know it's early on a Saturday morning. You probably hadn't had a lot of time to look at them, but what do you know about this Ridgeview team that's had a really good season in 2025?
Yeah, it's a great football team. Very, very athletic, very fast. I think they got 4 or 5 of the top 100-meter guys on their team, and they let them be athletes. Defensively, they kind of play a lot of man and crowd the box. And then offensively, they kind of mix and match different looks. They'll go some H-back looks, and then they spread. They lost their quarterback. I think they're playing their 3rd quarterback, so hopefully we can take advantage of that. But at the end, I think it really comes down to the details. We played some comparable opponents. We both played Dutch Fork, both played Northwestern. Then we throw in who we played with Gaffney and Burns and Dorman and that crowd. So I think we're battle tested. It's just, like I mentioned earlier, it's that much athleticism on the field. It's going to come down to who is where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. So we've got to really emphasize all of those things. Stance and feet placement and hand placement and head placement, and all those things are going to really, ultimately, I think, be the telling factor this week.
And then, Coach, last question for you. You talked about a lot of those young guys stepping into roles for players who are unfortunately out for the season. Man, that's a tough task there. How do you get young players with limited experience ready for the most important time of the year where it's do or die?
Well, that's an art and science, too, that you don't quite totally understand until you figure it out. But every kid's different. I think I messed up against Burns because we've had so many kids out that when Trent got hurt, that I didn't make much to do of it. I was just kind of like next man up, so to speak. And,
Sure.
But everybody knows that who wasn't playing. And I think I could have done a much better job of emphasizing you have to be better. You have to bring your A game. You have to play basically above your head at the highest level. And so I failed there, but dealing with so many young kids, they're trying to learn their psyche and their personality, and how do you get this kid to believe that he's good enough? And do you push him? Do you bark at him? Do you stroke him? So young thing's hard because you're learning how to kids respond. And you get in the mid-year and 3/4 into the season, you're learning a whole lot about yourself versus a senior-heavy team. And so I think we got a grasp of it. The coaches have done a really good job. So, we're here. Like I told them the other day, through all of this stuff, we are still standing right.
That's right.
So let's continue to, to improve and see that we can't be standing here again next week.
Well, Coach, congratulations on the big win last night to you and your team, and best of luck Friday night, and hope to talk to you again real soon.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. God bless. Go Vikings.
Mark Hodge, the head football coach of the Spartanburg Vikings, appreciate his time this morning. Alex, let's take an early break. Come back. We will have a longer last segment of the show, and it'll be the segment where we look at what's happening in round 2. Where are we leaning on these round 2 playoff matchups? That's next.
107.1 FM Spartanburg.
Streaming everywhere on the Odyssey app.
Well, I love the intro music, the intro bed there that John back in the Ingles Market Studios is playing, because it is time, Alex. Man, it feels like when you hear that song, that theme, that it's time to perform, right? And it's time. Round 2 of the high school football playoffs are here, and it's do or die in the postseason. And this season has flown by, but man, what a round 2 we have. Somebody mentioned it earlier on the stream, the matchups in round 2. I think this could be a lot of fun Friday night. You ready? You fired up and ready to go?
Well, I'm not ready for the season to continue
that's true.
dwindling down.
I'm with
but
you on
yes,
that.
I am ready for these round 2 matchups, because there are some really
It's good.
really intriguing matchups.
Could be good. All right, let's start leaning.
Okay,
either,
let's lean. I'm
one
gonna
way
lean
or
to
the
the
other.
right.
Let's go 1A and
Okay,
start at the
1A.
bottom, work our way up.
Sure.
Abbeville, Louisville on Abbeville, Louisville on Friday night. Which way are you leaning on that one?
I'm going to lean Abbeville, but look, these two teams won their games last night by a combined score of 125-0. You know, Abbeville
Blowouts.
blanked Great Falls 63-0. Louisville blanked Whitmire 62-0. So I'm going to lean Abbeville just because I know more about Abbeville. They're in our coverage area, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this game go either way.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. So that's the only really team in 1A in our coverage area. We jump up to 2A. Clinton, because they beat North Central last night, will host Saluda. Saluda, interesting team this year. You know, they have a first-year head coach. Their head coach, went to Lexington and trying to figure things out, Alex. But I don't know that this is a great draw for Saluda. It's going to be a tall task to go up to 20. Make the short trip to Clinton, but I don't know. I think early lean on this one. How do you not lean Red Devils?
Yeah, I got to go with Clinton on this one, Cole.
Early lean Clinton. Also, let's see. It is worth noting Andrew Jackson and Fairfield Central, even though they're not in our coverage area, that could be a good game. Chester will host Batesburg Leesville. Strom Thurmond hosting Liberty.
Yeah.
How about that in our coverage? This one will be tough. Strom Thurmond looked really good last night. Granted, they were playing Chesterfield, but boy, this could be it for Liberty.
Yeah, it's again, you talk about tough draw. That's a tough draw for Liberty. I mean, a team that is 7-4 or 7-3, 8-3 now after their win over Pelion last night. But I mean, Strom Thurmond is just such a good team year in and year out. Whenever you talk about once you get down to high school football playoffs in South Carolina, Strom Thurmond is typically always there.
Yeah. And 3A, Alex, early leans. Now we start slowing down a little bit because this is where it gets fun. Some good games we talked about in 3A. Unfortunately, everybody does get into the postseason. But, man, now that you've called out some of those teams, you look at these round 2 matchups and you think, some pretty good round 2 matchups. And then you look at what could be in round 3 and you think, Mountain View, Powdersville. Woodruff, Beltania. It's hard not to look at. We're not supposed to look ahead. The coaches would get mad at us for that. But round 2, here we go. 3A,
Okay.
Powdersville taking on Pendleton. This game's at Powdersville, and they had a bye last night, pretty much playing Carolina, Alex. And Pendleton, Broome, a dogfight, 24-21. I like Pendleton. I do believe, though, Pendleton's still a little down compared to what they were a few years ago when they were really good. I don't know that this is a really good Pendleton team, and for that reason, I look at Powdersville and think, those guys are kind of hitting their stride, playing well. We've been high on Robert Muster and Powdersville all season long.
Yeah, and what if I told you, Cole, that this would be a rematch from week 3 of the season in which Powdersville won 35-7 over Pendleton?
If you told me that, I would probably say, it might be close to the same score.
Okay, well,
maybe not
I'm
35-7.
going to lean Powdersville on this one. Again, we've mentioned it all morning. It's difficult to beat the same team twice in the
But sometimes
season,
you're the better team.
Yeah, and so I think Powdersville will end up being the better team on Friday night.
I think so, and it's at home,
Yeah.
right? That game is at Powdersville. You're right. I think that rematch may end up the same way it was the first time around. Also in 3A this Friday night, Alex, Crescent, the 4, will host Mountain View Prep the 5. Now, here's the reality of it. If Mountain View Prep plays like they did last night, this game could be close. Crescent, a pretty solid football team, 52-14 win. Granted, they did beat Union County last night, and unfortunately, that's not much to brag about these days. But am I wrong for thinking that Crescent Mountain View Prep might be a decent football game?
I don't think you're wrong for thinking that. Again, another rematch from in the regular season, way back on week 3, September 12th, a game in which Mountain View Prep won 41-19.
So
it wasn't really close in the regular season. But again, we get to a point. You talk about the Mountain View Prep St. Joe's game in the regular season. Wasn't close, 66-27. Last night, a 1-point win for MVP, 28-27. So I could see this game being a whole lot closer than what Mountain View would like for it to be, and a whole lot closer than what it was in the regular season.
Yeah, that score that you gave out, though, that does make you think, kind of lot. What was that score again?
41-19.
And that was what, week 3 you said?
Week 3, yeah.
How do you weigh week 3 versus now, right? It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
In the football sense. That'll be interesting. Yeah. I think that could be a game to keep your eye on. Now, let's go to the next one in 3A. Woodruff, the 2, hosting the 7 in Christchurch. Woodruff's had just a phenomenal season. No other way to put it, than that. They've been sensational. Only one loss this year, Alex. Christchurch, I said on our podcast we did Thursday, they've been kind of up and down, a little inconsistency, but at the end of the day, Christchurch still does have Division I football players on their team, and Jude Hall and those guys, they're a good football team. So I would like to think Christchurch can get it done, but here's what I look at, and you have the schedule in front. How has Christchurch performed this year in those other big games, right? The big games where they played really good teams, they've lost a few of those.
Yeah, they have. And, you talk about the Powdersville game for Christchurch. They lost it by a field goal, 31-28. They lost to Southside Christian. They got blanked 31-0 the final in that ball game. But here's the thing with Christchurch. They played Hampton County earlier in the season. Hampton County is the 1 seed in the lower state for 2A, I think. And so, yeah, but Hampton County is the 1 seed in the lower state in the 2A bracket. They beat Hampton County 40-35. So, and I think that was Hampton County's only loss of the season.
Wow.
So, again, they've played, you mentioned it, they played up and down all season. But when it seems like they get into those really big games that actually mean something, they've kind of not had their best game. And, I look back just a couple of weeks ago, that Southside Christian loss, where you and I both picked Christchurch to win that game, and Southside Christian really proved us wrong and said, no, we're going to make that 31-0.
Speaking of Southside Christian, the final game in the upper state in 3A, Southside Christian making the trip that I would hate to make.
Yeah.
Over to Anderson.
Yeah.
Take on Russell Blackson and Belton Honeypath.
Yeah.
As good as Southside Christian is, and as good of a season, Alex, as they've had. You mentioned that big win a couple of weeks ago over Christchurch. Boy, that's a tall task right there. And no disrespect, but I'm probably leaning Belton Honeypath.
Yeah, I got to lean BHP on this one as well, Cole. It's a very difficult task, a tough draw for Southside Christian. Yeah, you had Chapman last night, got them a 55-15 win over Chapman, but, we've talked about it all season long. We know how down Chapman has been this year. Only a 1-win football team. BHP, Robert Muster and what his crew does. Sorry, Russell Blackston and what his crew does over in Anderson County and Belton Honeypath. I mean, there's a reason he's been at BHP for 16 years now.
Yep.
And that's why they're 11-0 right now.
And for a round 2, South Point will host Emerald. Hard not to lean South Point there. Seneca will host AC Flora. Daniel will host Camden. Westside will host Wren. The 1 seeds or the higher seeds, Alex, is where I lean. The Westside Wren, though, I think that game could be interesting. Again, we talked about it. We were at that first game just 2 weeks ago now, and I think of the round 2 matchups in 4A, for me, that one is the most intriguing.
Yeah, absolutely, Cole. and again, I think this game for me all comes down to if Montu Brown
Yeah,
is going to be
it does.
healthy and able to play in this game. If he's not able to play, I think I got to lean West Side on this one. But if he is able to play, he's a huge difference maker for Wren and the Hurricanes. And I don't know a ton about AC Flora, but a 4-5 matchup always intrigues me as well, just because realistically these two teams in AC Flora and Seneca should be pretty evenly matched. I would lean Seneca on that just because of what Seneca's been able to do this year, and they're still scoring right now from like their game 3 weeks ago.
5A Division II, we've got to get to these pretty quick as we are running out of time. Northwestern will host Catawba Ridge. I think we all know where we're leaning on that one, Alex. The next game in 5A Division II, a game you'll be at making the trip to Greenwood. Gaffney at Greenwood, a 5 versus this season, Alex. In the preseason, when Gaffney traveled to Greenwood, it was a very different Gaffney team then with a different quarterback and a different running back. But your initial thoughts on Gaffney Greenwood Friday?
Yeah, this one's going to be tough for me to pick because I look through the black and gold glasses of Gaffney. This one is difficult. I may end up picking Greenwood in this one just to try to make some ground.
You will not pick Greenwood,
and that hurts me to say. But this will be the first time that Gaffney and Greenwood have played since 2019 in an actual game. Gaffney's won 3 straight against Greenwood, but this is one of those series where Greenwood really had Gaffney's number for quite a while, and then in recent history, Gaffney's kind of had Greenwood's number. But it'll be the first playoff game between the two since 1988.
And Greenwood goes as Tristan Lewis goes,
Yeah.
and that's the guy you talk about who's committed to South Carolina. Tristan's a phenomenal football player. I saw him play against Dorman, and Dorman had that game won. Pretty much ribbon and bow on top, and some penalties and a couple of big plays by Tristan Lewis allowed him to climb back in. And I do think that'll be a tough task, though, for Gaffney. Should be a good football game on Friday. T.L. Hanna hosting Greenville, the rematch. We talked about that one earlier, Alex. Indian Land hosting Hillcrest. This is a tough test for Hillcrest, who just came off last night with a big win over Riverside. Look, Hillcrest is legit. Their offense is really good. Quarterback really good. Jackson Free, and they're well coached. Indian Land's one of those teams where people just don't have a pulse on them because they haven't played the likes of the Blue Bloods, the teams that we cover. And, no disrespect to the teams they have played, but it sounds crazy to say, you really don't know how battle-tested Indian Land is.
Sure. And that's the thing for me that, I immediately am just going to pick Hillcrest in this game is, we don't know a lot about Indian Land. Obviously, they're not in our coverage area. But
you want Rams?
I'm going to go Rams on this one.
Wow.
What I saw last night with Hillcrest, and then again, Indian Land. Who have they played? That's no disrespect to those that they have played on their schedule, but when Indian Land was faced with a tough task in trying to win a region championship and go undefeated against Northwestern, they weren't able to do it, and they laid a goose egg.
That'll be. I think that will be one of the more interesting games this Friday to keep an eye on between Hillcrest and Indian Land. Last bracket, Alex, 5A Division I, Dutch Fork, the 1 seed, hosting Boiling Springs. You mentioned earlier a lot of history between these two programs lately, just not on the side of the Bulldogs, as we're live this morning at Ingalls in the Boiling Springs Inman area. But I'll tell you this. Boiling Springs is going to have to play a near-perfect game, and Dutch Fork will have to play a really bad game. I mean, early lean on this one, not much to say here. I'm leaning Dutch Fork.
Yeah, I'm leaning Dutch Fork on this one too, Cole. Not much to say. Dutch Fork has had Boiling Springs number the last 8 times they played.
Yeah. The 4 seed, Burns, who had a bye last night, will host Rock Hill. Rock Hill just had their way with Spring Valley.
Yeah.
And, man, look at what Leon Boulware has done at Rock Hill in his first season. Alex, they've won 7 games. This is a Rock Hill team that I think Burns is better than on paper. But, my gosh, you're playing a 7-win team. On paper, these two teams, record-wise, look pretty even. My early lean would be Burns because I think they are the more talented football team, especially with Trey Segura. But this is a Rock Hill team that I just don't know if you can overlook them.
Yeah, I don't think you ever want to overlook a Rock Hill team when you get to the second round of the playoffs, realistically, Cole. And, they won their first playoff game last night since 2018. But it was against a Spring Valley team that's been really down.
Really down.
They were 0-11 last year, and then this year they were 2-8 with wins over Chapin, who went winless this year, and win to open the season against Richland Northeast by 3 points. So, Spring Valley, they scored a total of, get this, Cole, they scored a total of 22 points.
Wow.
In region play.
How about that?
In 7 region games. So I got to go with Burns in this game.
Dorman, the 2, will host Blythewood, the 10, who Blythewood had a huge upset last night
They did.
over Clover.
Yeah.
That's a big upset, 42-23, and it wasn't close.
Yeah.
And look, Blythewood rocking and rolling with a momentum, but they're facing a different task on Friday with maybe one of the best football teams in the state, Alex.
Yeah, no doubt, Cole. You talk about that game last night. I would have picked Clover had we picked that game.
I know it, me too.
Especially considering, Blythewood, they've had a decent season. They're 4-7 right now, though. They're 4 wins, one of those being last night. So 3-7 in the regular season, and their last win coming against Spring Valley that we just talked about has had a down year prior to that game last night against Clover. And so I would say, obviously, from what I've seen from Dorman in a couple of games this year and not knowing a ton about Blythewood, I got to go Dorman. And honestly, right now, Cole, Dorman is my state champion pick.
Yeah, I think so. It's nothing wrong with that. They're as good as it gets this year. Ridgeview Spartanburg is the last game that we haven't touched on, and we just talked to Mark Hodge a few minutes ago with Trenton Lynch back there. They're a completely different team. Ridgeview is really solid, though, but Ridgeview is really struggling to – not struggling, but Ridgeview has struggled this year with the injury bug, much like Spartanburg has, especially at quarterback. They're on their 3rd quarterback, and, without Trenton Lynch, I'd pick Ridgeview because they're still a really good team. But if you told me that Trenton Lynch is going to run the football 20 times Friday night, I'm probably taking Spartanburg. I think this will be a good game down in the Columbia area.
I think it'll be a good game as well, Cole. Look, these two teams have only played once before. It was back in 2021, and it was a Spartanburg win, I think, by 3 points. So, and a lot's changed in those 4 years since that 2021 game. But, yeah, you got Trenton Lynch back. You eased him back in last night, it seemed like. You ease him back in a little bit more next week against Ridgeview. I got to take Spartanburg.
You taking
in this
Spartanburg?
game. Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting to see. Obviously,
my pick might change midweek, but
I could see Ridgeview winning. Don't get me wrong. I could see both teams winning, but man, that Trenton Lynch is just a difference maker. And if he didn't go, I'd take Ridgeview. But with him on the field, man, it's hard to pick against those guys. You saw what they did last night. They got a lot of momentum back as well. So, man, here we go. Round 2 of the high school football playoffs are here, Alex. And next week, that list will have dwindled down even more. We will be knocking on the door of an upper state championship just here in a couple of weeks. But that is all for us today. Appreciate all of the listeners out there. Want to say thanks one more time to Founders Federal Credit Union and Ingalls Market for hosting us each and every Saturday. Want to say thanks to Coach Scoot Watson of Greenville, Mark Hodge of Spartanburg for joining us this morning. Had some audio from Bennett Swaggart and Jackson Free on the show this morning. Want to say thanks to them as well for allowing me to catch up with them post-game. And Alex, we'll do it again next week. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
The playoffs continuing, and we will be here as well live at Ingalls. We will see you next Saturday on the Saturday Morning Scramble on the Fan Upstate.